Welcome to this urgent explainer. Today, we're breaking down a pretty severe structural dispute happening over at the Ledgewood Village condominium. And guys, this isn't just some minor HOA squabble. It's a situation that literally threatens the property values, the life savings, and honestly, the physical safety of every single resident in that community. So let's dive right into how one single unit's roof basically turned into a community-wide crisis.
So what actually happens when a condo board goes ahead and alters a building's structural roofline in total secret? Well, it's a question no homeowner ever wants to have to ask, right? But today, we're investigating an unauthorized demolition that completely bypassed community oversight. And in doing so, it effectively dumped some massive legal and financial liabilities directly onto the shoulders of the homeowners.
Now, as we all know, Ledgewood's property values are hugely reliant on its curb appeal. I mean, that appeal is really anchored by a very specific, consistent aesthetic brand. We're talking specifically about those signature half-moon windows on the top floors of the units. When buyers drive into this association, this uniform architectural harmony sends a super clear signal. Hey, this is a well-maintained, highly regulated, and valuable environment.
But then, suddenly, over at Unit 26, that high-end design feature was just completely eradicated. Literally without any warning, the roofline was flattened out into this mismatched flat facade. According to the community inquiries we're reviewing, this drastic alteration was done with absolutely no community vote, no stamped engineering plans, and completely without town permits. Just imagine waking up and finding out the structural character of your building was permanently altered overnight. Unbelievable, right?
Which brings us to Section 1, the unauthorized roofline alteration.
You really have to wonder, how does an unauthorized alteration of this scale happen entirely off the record? Well, a community-led inquiry uncovered that this modification completely bypassed the New Hampshire Condominium Act's open meeting rules. A formal records request came back with 0 public meeting minutes regarding the approval and 0 records of financial expenditures. And actually, it gets worse. Ledgewood's own declaration, specifically Article 7, demands 100% unanimous owner consent and stamped plans from a licensed engineer before you can modify common structural elements. Needless to say, neither of those requirements were met.
Moving right along to Section 2, rejecting the maintenance excuse. Okay, so when observant homeowners demanded the administrative records for all this, the board deployed their legal counsel to justify the unpermitted demolition. And get this, the lawyer shockingly argued that permanently removing a structural roof dormer to fix a leak is just routine maintenance. Seriously, they directly equated ripping off a roofline to replacing a ripped window screen or a defective doorknob. The letter even claimed that requiring an owner vote for this would be an absurd reading of the rules.
Let's just put those two arguments head-to-head for a second. On one hand, the lawyer claims this quote-unquote maintenance doesn't need a vote. But on the other hand, the actual condo declaration, Article 7, clearly, explicitly restricts anyone from altering common building portions without unanimous written approval and engineering plans. Homeowners are rightly pointing out that comparing a structural roof alteration to replacing a doorknob is a massive false equivalence. It completely ignores the plain text of the community's very own governing documents.
The community's response absolutely shuts down this defense. I mean, this wasn't some quick fix like changing a light bulb. It was a permanent, elective architectural design change to the building's structural envelope. Think about it. When you remove a dormer, you inherently alter the wind load and snow load geometry of the entire roof. Executing a change of that magnitude without municipal building permits or independent engineering oversight, that pushes this far, far outside the realm of simple maintenance.
Now let's look at Section 3, the fox guarding the henhouse.
So you might be asking yourself, how on earth did a major structural project bypass basic safety checks in the first place? Well, the records point directly to MTR, who is operating in a highly unusual dual capacity here. See, as the property manager, they're the ones advising the board on legal compliance. But at the exact same time as a contractor, they are the very ones pocketing the money to perform the unpermitted work. The records allege they just completely bypassed standard competitive bidding, effectively writing their own checks for this project.
Homeowner notices are calling this what it looks like: a massive failure of fiduciary duty. You effectively have the contractors self-certifying the structural soundness of their own unpermitted, unengineered construction. It's literally like letting a student write, take, and then grade their own final exam. It entirely compromises professional independence and, frankly, leaves the whole community flying blind when it comes to safety.
Which brings us to a really critical part: Section 4, Insurance and Mortgage Risks.
You know, some people might wonder, why does a roof issue on Unit 26 even matter to someone living down the hall in Unit 1? Well, it's because multi-unit buildings are interconnected structural systems. When you alter one roofline without engineering plans, you transfer load-bearing stress to neighboring units, which can cause sagging and shifting over time. But worse than that, these unvetted changes to the structural envelope can actually compromise the fire compartmentalization of the entire building. That means violating life safety codes for everyone inside.
And then there is the immediate, terrifying financial threat: insurance. The documents explicitly warn that altering the building envelope without town permits basically hands the insurance company a golden ticket to deny future claims. In a worst-case scenario, the carrier could just completely cancel Ledgewood's master casualty policy. If that happens, the entire association is left massively financially exposed. Just let that sink in for a second.
And finally, there's the very real threat of becoming a quote-unquote blacklisted community. See, when appraisers value a unit for a sale or refinance, they're looking for original plans and permits. When they spot unpermitted structural changes on a multifamily building, government-backed lenders like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac can and will absolutely refuse to issue loans. This effectively freezes the real estate market, turning Ledgewood into an unfinanceable community where owners are physically trapped, completely unable to sell their homes.
Let's wrap up with Section 5, the Zero-Cost Remediation Plan. To stop these cascading risks from destroying property values, the sources outline a definitive, homeowner-organized remediation plan. And it's straightforward, but it's aggressive. Step 1, halt all non-compliant projects immediately. Step 2, secure a third-party, independent engineering assessment so we can uncover the true extent of the damage. Step 3, create a formal timeline for repair. And Step 4, absolutely the most critical piece, demanding that MTR fully fund 100% of the restoration costs. The community's stance is zero out-of-pocket costs for homeowners. Why? Because this massive liability stems directly from the property manager's bad advice and unauthorized contracting.
So the tension at the heart of this condo governance dispute is pretty crystal clear. The critical question remains for Ledgewood. Will the board finally enforce the New Hampshire Condominium Act to protect the assets of their neighbors, or are they going to allow the fox to continue guarding the henhouse in the shadows? It's a really stark warning for condo owners everywhere about the absolute necessity of transparency and compliance. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep your eyes open, and we'll see you next time.